In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a self-generating patch using the sample and hold module. So first we'll create the basic voice. I'm going to use one oscillator going through one filter, going through the VCA. So I patched the sawtooth output from the VCO6 to the audio input on the discrete OTA VCF. So that's a low-pass filter. And then I'm going to take the 4-pole out and use that as the output into the VCA. All right, so that's the basic voice. Now I haven't patched any of the MIDI stuff in because I don't plan to play this patch with the MIDI controller. I want this to self-generate. So for now, just to test out if we're getting sound, I can just increase the gain on the VCA. All right, cool. So it's working and I brought the gain back down. Now let's set up the sample and hold. I'm going to use the random output from the noise generator module and set that to the sample and hold input. And then the sample and hold output is going to go and control the pitch of the oscillator. Now we're not going to hear anything change yet because the sample and hold doesn't have a trigger yet. So we need some kind of a trigger in the trigger input of the sample and hold. Currently, the best option would be to use the Metropolis. You can see that flashing LED that's outputting a consistent clock. If that's not on, you can hit the run button. All right, so I'm going to use the clock output and plug that into the trigger input of the sample and hold. All right, now let's increase the gain on the VCA again. All right, so now we're getting this random melodic phrase. Now, I want to introduce a little bit more control in the sound, make use of the ADSR envelope to control the VCA, as well as maybe modulate the filter cutoff. So we're going to have to mult that clock because that clock is going to trigger the ADSR, it's going to trigger the sample and hold as well. So I've patched the clock to the input on the mult, and now we can use 3 more outputs from the multiple and have 3 copies of the clock. One copy is going to go back into the sample and hold. So we should still be getting the trigger. And then the next copy, we can use to trigger the gate on the ADSR. Now, thankfully, this quad ADSR just needs 1 gate and all the 4 ADSRs are being triggered. So let's use the first one to control the VCA and maybe the second one to modulate the filter cutoff. All right, so that's working. So now we have volume control over the sound. Let's also modulate the filter cutoff. I'm going to take the second ADSR's output and plug it in to the FM input on the discrete OTA VCF. I've set the CV amount for FM1 to about the 12 o'clock position. And now we can hear simultaneously the amplitude of the signal being modulated by the first ADSR and the filter cutoff being modulated by the second ADSR.